meeting to order on Monday, September 14th, 2020. The time is 6:01 p.m. Our next meeting will take place Monday, October 5th at 6 o'clock p.m. And as always, I must read that in accordance with Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 18, and the governor's August 7th, 2020 revised order prohibiting assemblage of more than 25 people, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation. In-person attendance by members of the public is prohibited, and all effort will be made to permit public attendance of this meeting via remote access by internet, telephone, and via public broadcast by Malden Access Cable Television on public access television channels. Public access will also be provided by posting draft minutes and/or a transcript recording or record of the meeting on the City of Malden website at cityofmalden.org as soon as practicable after tonight's meeting. So what we'll do first, as always, we will pledge allegiance to our flag. We'll then have a moment of silence for all those who have served our country and continue to do so today. We'll then have our clerk call the roll to ensure that we have a quorum sufficient to meet this evening. And then we'll get into tonight's agenda, which consists of the approval of the minutes, followed by public comment. We'll then hear from our superintendent on his report. Then we'll talk about subcommittees and discussions of them, motions and resolutions, personal privilege. And then we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of collective bargaining. And then depending on what happens there, we'll come back out to adjourn. So are there any questions of the members? All right, hearing none, let's pledge allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of all those who have fought for our country and continue to do so today. Thank you. All right, let's have our clerk call the roll. If you could unmute yourself when you're saying that you're present, and then mute yourself for the rest of the meeting until you speak again, that would be great. Madam Clerk.
Mayor Christensen?
Here.
Mr. Drummy?
Here.
Mr. Froyo? Mr. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Iovino?
Here.
Ms. Luong?
Here.
Mr. McCarthy?
Here.
Ms. Pedafora?
Here.
Mr. Weldai?
Here.
Superintendent Oteri?
Here.
All right, so we do have a quorum sufficient to allow us to meet this evening. Let's get to it. So first up, the approval of minutes. So let's take up the regular session minutes of August 24th, 2020.
I make a motion that we approve the August 24th regular session minutes of 2020.
All right, motion by Mr. McCarthy, seconded by Mr. Iovino. Any questions on those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Executive session minutes of August 24, 2020.
Motion.
Second.
By Mr. Iovino, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Any questions there of the members? All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. We're now at public comment. This is an opportunity for the community to address the school committee. We just ask for your name and address for the record and to keep your remarks to just a couple of minutes. Thankfully, one of our own is going to help us administer tonight's public comment session. So I do want to thank him at the outset, Mr. Weldai. So I'll turn it over to him.
All right, if anybody would like to participate in public comment, please either click the raise hand feature on the panelists or the participants tab, or type your name and address into the, or just name for now, into the Q&A. All right, we have one so far, so I'm going to promote Felipe A. Jane.
Mr. Weldai, if I could just read something prior to public comment, if that's okay?
Yeah, I think so. Normally we don't do that, but is this something that came up suddenly?
Yes, it is, and we just wanted to address that if that's possible.
Sure.
Sure. We collected Chromebooks that were in use this summer from our families earlier this summer, and we quarantined the Chromebooks for the appropriate amount of time, then worked on the work that they needed, and then re-quarantined them before going back out for public distribution. This is why we needed the devices back in August. We received word today that a few of the devices that have gone out were in a condition that was less than up to our standards. And if we have any families out there that have that problem, please reach out directly to Natalia Brennan, our Director of Instructional Technology, and I'll put her email address in the chat, but I wanted to get that out there so it didn't get lost earlier. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Superintendent. Back to Mr. Weldai.
Absolutely, we'll promote our first public comment participant. Make sure it worked. All right, you have the floor.
All right, good evening.
Hello. Good evening. It's a pleasure to see you all and to speak with you all today. And I'd like to preface my comments by saying that I also had the pleasure of speaking with Mrs. Spadafora a few days ago and discussed with her some of the concerns that I'd also like to share with you that also pertain to a letter I sent to the whole school committee on Thursday of last week. So I am an assistant professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School and director of healthy aging studies at the Depression Clinical and Research Program of the Massachusetts General Hospital. My opinions are my own and also represent those of Dr. Liliana Ramirez Gomez, who's a neurologist at MGH and a BB parent who co-authored the letter. She could not be here tonight due to clinical responsibilities at Mass General. These comments are made as a concerned parent of two minority children who are primary school age at BB School. They do not represent official statements on behalf of our employers. You all joined the school committee because you wanted to improve education for the children of Malden, who are predominantly children of color and non-English speakers, many of them. And coronavirus, which has caused approximately 9,300 deaths in the state of Massachusetts since March, has immensely complicated that. We are in a very difficult situation. Closing schools is a tough choice, and it disproportionately worsens the education for minority students. When Mystic Valley Charter gave parents the choice of staying home remotely or going back physically, the choice, students of color chose to go back because their parents know they are most affected and they want their children to have better lives with more opportunities and less discrimination. My perspective on the remote curriculum pertains to my own experience as the parent of a 6-year-old who became literally dizzy and suffered from headaches, even during 30-minute twice weekly sessions with his teacher, whom he loved, wonderful teacher. Remote sessions last year. And it is also based on my professional knowledge as a neuroscientist and psychiatrist and informed by the education literature. Virtual instruction for 5, 6, and 7, and 8-year-old children has little neurobiological basis. Attention spans are short. Group conversation is supremely difficult online due to inadequately developed theory of mind, lack of myelination of the prefrontal cortical circuits. Virtual learning simply does not respect the child's developing nervous system or acknowledge the fundamental role of the student-teacher relationship that involves close observation of the student by the teacher for several hours a day. As per the New England Journal of Medicine article and a wealth of evidence, primary students of color will be disproportionately affected. I myself have not seen any positive short-term or long-term studies on the effects of 6 hours of virtual school in primary age children. In fact, a recent modeling study published by the School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences at Mass General in August suggested that reading ability gains in kindergarten students decreased by 66% without in-person instruction last year. And that is on top of a lot of other bad news, which I know you all are familiar with. Some kids might do well, but some, like my child who did great in the classroom, simply do not do well with remote instruction, and it will adversely affect their health. The remote curriculum may be a necessary evil someday, but I don't feel that day is today, because we have all been given a gift to help prevent our young children of color and immigrant children from falling into the virtual curriculum hole along with their computers. This present has been wrapped in the ribbons of peer review, published in the New England Journal of Medicine by one of the world's best pandemic epidemiologists at the Harvard School of Public Health, along with an education expert who's a former Boston public school teacher who has that expertise. And that gift is a benchmark for reopening primary schools. That benchmark is less than 10 cases of COVID-19 per 100,000 people. This guideline is consistent with statements made by the Centers for Disease Control and the American Academy of Pediatrics, as well as the National Academy of Sciences and Engineering, which also prioritized in a recent report published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, reopening primary schools. While the CDC has received criticism related to political interference, this is not true of the pediatricians who just want what's best for the kids. Academic medicine groups that have commented have expressed concern about school closures, including the American Psychiatric Association, which I know best, which stated that closing schools would make it more difficult, quote, to identify and address important learning deficits, as well as child and adolescent physical or sexual abuse, substance use, depression, and suicidal ideation. Think about that for a second. That is what we are depriving our kindergarteners of against the recommendations of pandemic experts. Let the kids start school and the teachers get to know the students. Of note, when reopening full-time school is safer than hybrid models because children and teachers have fewer exposures to others. I sent some articles to Mrs. Spadafer about this. In closing, I hope we can all take this gift while contagion rates remain low to reopen schools, implementing appropriate safety protocols to protect students and teachers and other school personnel. I think that this will make Malden as a whole safer as the children understand how to be safe and they learn more about it in their classrooms. Implement a school COVID tracking program so we truly know the local impact. And as Dr. Meissner, Chief of Pediatric Infectious Disease at Tufts, said in yesterday's Boston Globe, the risk to teachers is lower from returning to school than going to the grocery store. And that's based on hard numbers, not her theory, not her conjecture about the safety of classrooms or the behavior of children. It's just the numbers. The impact of remote schooling with its disproportionately negative impact on minority and immigrant 5 and 6 and 7 and 8-year-old children is terrible to contemplate. You do have the opportunity to stem the tidal wave of inequality that COVID-19 is bringing. I hope you'll take it by returning our primary children to school full time within the next 4 weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, anybody else wishing to address the school committee?
Last call, either raise hand or type in the Q&A.
And Madam Clerk, did anything come in via email or phone?
No, we didn't have anything.
All right, we are clear.
All right, we're going to end that part of the agenda. We'll now move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, and welcome everybody. I did have to switch over to my phone since my Wi-Fi connection, despite having a new access point put in today, seems to be backfiring. I apologize. First item here on my talking point report is the revised 170-day calendar that is in your packet. As we were here the last time, we noted that with the addition or the elimination, I should say, of the 10 school days from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, it brought the required school days down to 170 days. The calendar that we had the last time was 172 days, and we noted that we needed to add 2 additional professional development days. So our Unit A, our teachers, Unit A and B, meet the required 184 days. We have done that in this calendar here. I just want to note that the 2 days that we are adding as professional development days, one is an addition. It is on Friday, February 12th of 2021. That's the Friday before the beginning of the February break. And the second day that we added was on Thursday, June 17th. That is a day, the students' last day without snow days. The 170th day will be June 16th. And then we would have professional development for staff on the 17th of June. I'd also note that there is no school on Friday, June 18th, because that is now a holiday that we are celebrating in Massachusetts for Juneteenth, which technically is on June 19th. But because the holiday falls on a Saturday, we celebrate the holiday for our staff on that Friday. That is the school calendar without snow days. We are waiting guidance from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education regarding snow days during remote and/or hybrid modes and how that looks. They will be providing that in the coming weeks, they said.
All right, so Superintendent, should we take that up now?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
All right. What say you, school committee? Questions, queries, and we'll entertain any motions.
Make a motion to accept.
Motion by Mr. Iovino to accept, seconded by Mr. Drummy. All right, let's talk about it. Any questions? All make sense? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
opposed? The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Back to our school superintendent.
Good, thank you very much. We opened our 163rd year of public education in Malden on Monday, August 31st. We welcomed our faculty back by Zoom. It was hopefully the only time in history we'll have to do this virtually. We had several mandatory training sessions this year. One was Jeff Perotti, who presented to the school committee last year, as you recall. Jeff is the founder of the Safe Schools initiative from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. He brought us some guidance last year on the creation and support for our all-gender bathrooms. Jeff, I've worked with Jeff professionally for the last 10 years. He's a great colleague and a wonderful friend. He brought a panel for his training to help with that. He brought 2 transgender students, Annabelle, who's a 9th grader, and Landon, who's a college student. Landon is, I will say, one remarkable young man. I met him when he was a high school student at a superintendent's meeting. He has done 2 things that I've yet and probably never will accomplish on my bucket list. One is he's met President Obama, and the other is he's been interviewed and written up in Rolling Stone magazine. So he is a virtual rock star. President Obama, he was termed in the Rolling Stone magazine by President Obama as the poster boy for transgender youth. Jeff also brought 2 parents, Annabelle's mother and the mother of another transgender young person, and they went over terminology, ways in which to support, and gave a perspective, which was terrific. This was mandatory for all staff. The second mandatory training we had was conducted by our own Ms. Patty Tremendozzi, our Director of Nursing, and Ms. Maria Tamagna, the Board of Health nurse here in Malden. They went over safety protocols during COVID, universal precautions, hand washing, from some very basic information to some very specific information, the type of PPE, how to put PPE on and off, the donning and doffing of the PPE was all shown. We videotape both of these training sessions, so when we onboard new staff during the year, they can take part in that as well. We also had Dr. Darnisa Monte Jackson on Tuesday, September 8th, as our keynote speaker to kick off the week's training session as we renewed our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion to create a community of belonging here in Malden. We also had today Jessica Minahan, who is a behavioral person, consultant, trainer extraordinaire, and she filled our staff's toolbox with tips and strategies to work with our students who have suffered trauma and deal with anxiety. She's absolutely amazing. We've had wonderful feedback from our staff on that. Our 10 days of professional development have focused on the following themes. There's been safety training, which has reviewed safety items that are critical for our return to in-person school. Some required trainings that we have to complete this year, such as conflict of interest, Title IX, 51A training. Some timely topics on social emotional learning, including PBIS, trauma-sensitive schools, and responses to anxiety, equity, teaching in a remote setting, and technology support. We had a number of trainings, time that was set aside for curriculum and instruction, as well as coming together while working apart. This was building-based time scheduled by the principals in blocks of time to address individual building needs, and then planning and outreach, times for our educators to plan in teams and collaborate across the grade level in the school, and also time to connect with our students and families. The district also purchased a copy of the distance learning playbook for each of our teachers. It's a practical guide and resource that covers everything from self-care and ways to make life easier in terms of planning for distance learning, with sections on working with young learners for whom lots of screen time is a particular challenge. We are also pleased to announce that we have a tentative agreement with the Malden Education Association. They are voting for ratification of that as we speak. The safe return to school for students and staff has been the overriding theme during the process. We held many negotiation sessions that lasted many hours, but in the end, we have an agreement that will get our staff back in the buildings on September 28th and our highest need students beginning on October 13th. The school week will be 4 days, with the buildings being cleaned on Wednesdays. We will have a committee that includes medical and public health staff to interpret the data and the metrics to help drive decisions to the next phase of reopening. We hope to progress to a hybrid model after we get our highest need students in, and then to fully in person. We do not have any set dates for these to happen, but we will convene the committee to monitor the current data on cases on a regular basis, monitoring infection rates and other trends locally and at the state level. If I could quote from the preamble of the memorandum of agreement, the health and safety of our students, educators, family, and the community are the foremost priority of the Malden School Committee and the Malden Education Association. In order to protect public health and safety, the Malden Public Schools shall make sound decisions regarding COVID-19 guidelines issued by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, the Massachusetts Department of Labor Standards, Massachusetts Department of Industrial Accidents, and the City of Malden Board of Health. The MEA and the Malden School Committee agree to meet as soon as possible to negotiate the impact and the effects of any revisions or updates to those guidelines. I also would like to announce that starting on Wednesday, September 16th, our first full day of remote learning, the breakfast and lunch program, the free breakfast and lunch program, will be expanded to 6 sites in the city, all the K-8 buildings and the high school. So Forestdale, Beebe, Ferryway, Salemwood, the Linden Steam Academy, and Malden High School will have free breakfast and lunch 10 to 1 at each one of those schools. This is free for any student in Malden. I also want to inform the public that we will have crossing guards present at each one of these schools during this time as well. So there will be some safety measures taking place. We hope that this will ease the burden of providing meals for students while they are in remote learning mode. And again, you do not have to be a student at that school. So if you are a high school student and you live on Coleman Street in Malden, you can walk right over to the Linden STEAM Academy and pick up your breakfast or lunch at between 10 and 1. You don't have to go to the high school. That's for anybody. Even if you were at the Early Learning Center, we don't have a distribution site there, but Early Learning Center parents, you can go to the closest school that's near you. So that we hope that that makes things easier. This is free for everybody, and we strongly encourage all families to participate in this. Our technology, as I announced on Friday to our families, we currently have Chromebooks for all students grade 5 through 12. At this point, we do not have the Chromebooks for our pre-K to grade 4 students. We have been the victim of a massive backorder of devices to the computer manufacturers. I'd like to give everyone a time frame and a summary of what has been communicated on this. Our lead staff on this were Ms. Natalia Brennan, our technology director, and Ms. Tony Mertz, our business manager. We placed our orders for the Chromebook in July once the CARES Act funding was secured. The order was placed with our vendor, CDW, and on July 30th, they confirmed the order. We were initially told that they would arrive late August, possibly the beginning of September, but certainly in time for the beginning of the school year on September 16th. On August 28th, we received an email from a representative at CDW that said they were expecting a batch of 29,000 from Hewlett Packard, that's the manufacturer, and our order of 4,000 was on this batch of Chromebooks. On September 2nd, the representative said that we missed the order because it was smaller than anticipated, and it cut us off from the shipment. The following day, on September 3rd, our representative confirmed our order would be delivered between September 18th and the 23rd. On September 8th, our representative reconfirmed our order that it would be delivered between the 18th and the 23rd. We were even given Google licenses for the order, thus giving us the impression that the license was tied to a device with the serial number. And finally, on Thursday, September 10th, our representative notified us that our order would not be in until sometime in October. Since that afternoon on Thursday, our team led by Natalia Brennan, Tony Mertz, Kelly Chase, and I have been working nonstop on every possible connection or lead that we have, both private, public, political, family, or friend that we've had. We also contacted the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. I personally spoke with Commissioner Riley on Thursday and Friday, as well as today. We were earlier in this, sometime in August, the number of school districts were being told that their Chromebook order would be delayed until December. And the state was going to step in and had some connection or a program where they could get Chromebooks to districts in October. Because we were being assured all along the way that ours would be in sometime before the beginning of the school year, we did not cancel that order and go with the state. We stayed with our vendor CDW because at the time we were being assured our order was placed in July, and the order with the state was going to be placed sometime in late August. So we stayed with CDW. CDW is the largest supplier of both Hewlett Packard and Google. They have informed us that there's currently a back order of close to 400,000 Chromebooks with HP through CDW. Needless to say, we were disappointed and frustrated. We will continue to come up with alternative assignments for our students. As soon as we were made aware of the tech issue, our curriculum directors began working with the coaches and their teams to pull together curriculum packets for the kindergarten through grade 5. At the time, we didn't know that we had enough computers for grade 5, which we did get out in the last 24 hours. So we have worked with the state. Unfortunately, I heard from Commissioner Riley today that the earliest that their order can come in for us would be sometime in November, late October, early November, maybe. We're continuing to work with a number of people on this to hopefully expedite this. I've reported this to, the commissioner asked me to report it to the Mass Associations of Superintendents. There are a number of districts who are in the same position, and their legislative lead, Dr. Mary Bork, has forwarded us our issue, as well as a number of school districts' issues, to the Attorney General's office for the investigation of, was this fraudulent and misleading. So we are continuing to work this. We will keep everybody updated on this. Tony, Natalia, and Kelly are working every possible angle on this. We're still working with CDW to see if anything can be done to expedite this, putting as much pressure on them as we can. We will have packets for our pre-K to grade 4 students available for families on Wednesday. We will be sending out a communication to those families tomorrow with some details. We will have each student will pick up a packet that will have all activities, including literacy, math, science, social studies, exploratory, physical education, ESL, and social emotional learning. In this way, students who need a little practice before diving into their own grade level will be able to access the previous grade level materials. Those who move through their own grade level can access the next grade level's work for a challenge. The packets will be available at each of the K-8 schools. This allows families to pick up the packets at the building closest to where they live, similar to our lunch distribution. You don't have to go to your own school for the packet when they're ready. They're being worked on now. They're at the printers. The Early Learning Center packets will be printed separately, and those will come out hopefully on Wednesday as well. As soon as we have some more information, we will get this out to everybody. I'm pleased to announce, very proud about this, and I want to thank our business manager, Tony Mertz, as well as the city's IT director, Anthony Rodriguez, for their help in shepherding this program through. We will have a family help desk, a multilingual external family help desk to help families with technical questions beginning on Wednesday. This is a service for our families only. You'll notice tomorrow morning on the website, there will be a phone number and a live chat box for families that can use to connect with technical support. The chat box will only show up on the website if there is a live agent. The agent will be live on Wednesday morning, and this will be a Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They will have the ability to communicate in every language. The tech desk is staffed by GSD, that is the GDS rather, that is the technical vendor, and they use RTT as an interpreter service. They will either have a live person on there, or the chat window can be converted to work in every language. Again, this service is exclusively for our families for Chromebook support. So for instance, if you want to have help on how to set up folders on your Chromebook, this is an opportunity for them to do that. How to save a document. How do I charge it? There is no question that really cannot go unanswered. It is exclusively for our family. We're really proud about this. The translation services are part of this program, and it's really to help support our families as we embark on this remote learning for real for the foreseeable future here. And hopefully when we get all the Chromebooks out, it will really pay some major dividends. This will help our parents navigate resources and navigate issues with both Wi-Fi and the Chromebooks. If the help desk cannot be supported or assist them, the parents will be connected with our school-based technical team, which would handle more of the hardware issues, for instance, if something's not working. I want to thank, again, Tony Mertz and the city's IT director, Anthony Rodriguez, for their incredible support and efforts to make this happen. I have an update on special education. After extensive recruitment and interview process, I'm pleased to let the school committee and the public at large know that we have a successful candidate for the assistant superintendent position, director of special education. Her name is Pamela McDonald. She's coming to us from the Haverhill Public Schools, where she has been the Director of Special Education for the last 4 years. Malden has been fortunate to have been able to bring back a team of consultants who stepped into the role in the past and were very, very familiar with this. Maura Johnson and Debbie Cannell helped shepherd the interview processes, along with Ashley Pierre, our HR Director, for several of our administrative openings this summer, most particularly for this position for Assistant Superintendent. In addition, they've assumed the role for Student Services since the departure of Michael Wood in August. I want to publicly thank them for their help during this time. We are so fortunate to have had the opportunity to bring them in during a pandemic, and especially during the time of Mr. Wood's departure, transitioning to a new director with the beginning of the school year. Both Maura and Debbie have been nothing short of amazing and miracle workers from my perspective. The Special Education Department has been working on a transition plan that includes an analysis of where Special Education Department needs to focus specific effort during the fall and throughout the school year. Recognizing that there were areas that were not working for parents and students was the place to begin. For staff, this will mean training in writing a more robust and specific remote learning plans, the implementation of complete service delivery, including related services, creating a critical list of evaluations that are outstanding, and developing an action plan to prioritize those evaluations for completion. Also purchasing technology, including new software that will ensure that the students can be evaluated safely and in a timely manner. Excuse me. Excuse me. This will help determine how related services will be provided and will help ensure that both students and staff remain safe. A goal for this school year will be to, along with the parent partners, determine current and future service needs, evaluate specific education programs as required, and develop a strategic plan for student services. We are fortunate that Pam McDonald is experienced in this endeavor. Through an online survey that was followed up with phone calls and outreach by both program managers and building principals, the district identified those students whose levels and types of disability are likely the immediate need for in-person education, whose parents wish to have their child receive those services either in person or through a remote learning platform. We truly thank our parents for making their voices and opinions known. Student Services in Malden Public Schools is ready to start the new school year with enthusiasm and a desire to work cooperatively with parent partners and staff. I have an update on our hiring for this year. We had 27 new teachers. Those are Unit A members added to the district this year. Please note that this does not include teaching positions where teachers were reappointed to their roles if they were in one-year roles. Of the 27 educators, 22% of those educators are people of color, or at least identified as people of color. We have, of the 27, 2 African-American or Black, 1 multiracial, 1 Latino, and 2 Asian. We also have over 37% of our educators are fluent in another language beside English. The languages that we hired in this year were Arabic, were Arabic, Chinese, Haitian Creole, Spanish, Vietnamese, Italian, and American Sign Language. Parent Information Center, currently the Parent Information Center is still open per the Board of Malden Health for appointment only. There's been an uptick of withdrawals and families moving out of Malden. The Parent Information is processing a number of these cases, as well as recent arrivals. We will be sending some additional resources to the Parent Information Center because this is an extremely busy and critical time, and that will be happening tomorrow. Our homeschooling update: to date, we have received 13 new homeschool students. 3 of these are families that moved into Malden over the summer, and there were a few from private schools from outside of Malden that moved in and have now decided to homeschool. We did have several students move outside of Malden, so the total number of students is between 35 and 40 students right now. There is a fair amount of confusion out there where some families say they want to teach their child at home And when we follow up with them, they actually are saying that they want to stay into remote learning. We have been reaching out and following up with those folks as well. I have an update on our Early Learning Center. I am pleased to announce that Mr. Richard Rogers will be the interim principal of the Early Learning Center. Rick Rogers is a proven school leader with over 28 years experience as a principal in both urban and suburban settings. He has been a principal in Winchester, Lexington, Lowell, and Brookline. He's been the executive director of the Massachusetts Elementary Principals Association. He is a consultant to many school districts on leadership and building professional learning cultures. He has experiences in all facets of school leadership, from hiring, supervising, evaluating staff, and providing professional development. Rick's references note a very strong background in all aspects of school leadership, promoting an inclusive school community and a very strong professional learning culture. Rick will be a welcome addition to the Malden Public Schools team while we continue the search for a permanent leader at the Early Learning Center. I'd like to welcome Rick Rogers to the Malden Public Schools family. School schedules for September 16th and onward. I'm aware that many students and parents still have questions about the school schedule, what it will look like during remote learning. The staff and principal at each school will be contacting every student to let them know this information. Please do not hesitate to reach out to your school building if you've not heard from them, or if you missed an email or call from them. I'd also like to use this time to inform our families to make sure that you have communicated the correct phone numbers or email addresses to your school secretary so that you don't miss calls or emails that go out. That's very important. Our athletics update. The Greater Boston League has voted to push all fall sports to the Fall 2 season, which will begin in late February. Athletic Director Charlie Conifrey and Malden High School Principal Chris Mastrangelo fully supported this and made the case that it was critical to remain united as a league, especially as two of our league members, Everett and Revere, are red cities and cannot, by both state edict and MIA, cannot even hold practices or begin a season. So we will defer all of those for the safer, hopefully, Fall 2 season. And just lastly, in closing, that in spite of all the challenges, difficulties, and obstacles in our path, I want to remind students, families, and staff that we'll be working together tirelessly to make sure students receive the education they deserve. Our staff has really put in tremendous effort over the last 10 days here. I think the biggest obstacle right now for our staff is they haven't seen our kids. I think when our kids get here, whether it's virtually or hopefully soon in person, it will bring things back to a more normalized, routinized aspect that will really benefit everybody. We will get through this. We will get through this together. And on that note, I'd like to conclude my report, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, Superintendent. Now let's get to questions of the members. But before we do, Mr. Weldai and I noticed there's a question in the chat, Superintendent, that you might be able to help us answer quickly. And Mr. Weldai will do the responding for us. Mr. Weldai, what's the question exactly?
The question is, will there be online instruction to go with the packets, or no online instruction at all until the Chromebooks come in, particularly in the K-4?
Will it be on? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Could you read that again, Mr. Weldai?
So will there be online instruction to go along with the packets, or no online instruction until the Chromebooks come in for the K-4?
I believe there'll be some online instruction in there. I would have to just double check that. I don't want to misspeak, but we will put that information out in a communication tomorrow for everybody.
Okay, so maybe if you could respond, Mr. Weldai, accordingly. While he's doing that, let's take a few questions of the members. Let's go to Ms. Spatafor first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a few questions. I know some of our principals have reached out to discuss returning Chromebooks for those students that had picked them up in the 5 through 8 grade level that already had a device at home that they could use. So the Chromebook would have been like a second device. So I just want to follow up with, or make sure we're clarifying that if a student already has a device to work with at home, they should be returning their Chromebook to the school that they picked up for redistribution, at least, again. So this is the message I was getting from our school principal, and I know some other school principals have put this out. So I just would like some clarification on that.
So,
Sure. Right now, our parents, principal, I'm sorry, will send out a survey. I think that the BB school sent theirs out today to parents that if they do not need the device, if they have one at home, and we will get that information so that we can get those computers out into the hands of people that need them right now. But that will be coming out in the next day.
Okay. Do I have time for one more question, Chair?
please.
So in regards to packet pickup, if say a caregiver is unable to get to the school or whatnot, are they able to send a family member?
Yes.
Somebody, a trusted, maybe another parent in the classroom to pick up for them. I just want to make sure that we're making this as easy as possible for those parents.
Absolutely. There's no, we don't need ID. They're just really going to be there. So if parents want to team together and pick up 3 or 4, for groups, that's absolutely something we encourage.
And then just
And
lastly,
just also, we will post as another insurance for that, we will be posting the packets online so that you could print them off if you need to. But we also know sometimes parents don't have that ability, but yes, we will have that.
thank you. And then just lastly, before I end, for our high needs learners that would be going back into school, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was October 13th.
Correct.
Between now and then, is it safe to assume they're going to be receiving their services at home, like their specialist speech, OT, PT, between now and then at home? I just want to make sure I clarify for our high needs.
Correct. We will be providing that to the best of our abilities that we can with the remote services. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Spatafor. Other questions of the members? Let's go to Ms. Luong.
Thank you. To segue again with what Ms. Spatafor just said, how are we providing those special ed services in general IEP services to the K through 4s with no Chromebooks? If they're on packets, how are we going to be supplying them their services?
Well, we know some of the families do have devices at home. They
Okay.
will be reaching out beginning on Wednesday to each one of their families and coordinating the best way in which we can provide those services.
Great. And then my other question is that I didn't see in your report, I see that you have a transition plan that you've coordinated, especially with some backlogs of evaluations that we have and whatnot. But my question is, where's the audit of services so how far are we into the audit? Do we have a company, put aside that's going to do the individual student audit that we all voted on in June and hoping to have a report today, but understood given the circumstances, we were going to push it out a little bit. But so where's the individual audits and where we are with that?
I think we had talked with Maura Johnson, myself. What we're going to do is try to get our database squared away and working on the remote learning plans for each one of our students. And then when Ms. McDonald comes in, we will be working with her to provide, get a company in with an audit. Right now, we do not have a vendor, given.
Dropped out.
Oh, give it a sec. There we go.
Apparently, it's still sticking. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. What we will be doing is hopefully working on looking at an audit as a preview for our review that's coming up in the spring, I believe. I I think Mara had, and I and you had discussed that as a plan that would probably make the most sense, given that we're bringing on a new director.
Let me just jump into that. When I remember in the conversation that we had was that Mara was actually going to consult with a few people that she knew to discuss the best route to take in terms of which company to look at and utilizing for this audit. We did not say that we were going to wait 6 months or going to wait for our DESE audit. I find that we're starting the school year with students. We have no idea what they were given in truth and what they were given for services in the spring. We're starting some of these kids are starting the school year remotely. Obviously, our hardest hit will come back not until October 13th. And we're like running blind a little bit here. And I have to say, like, I'm not okay with waiting that length of time to find out what individual students need. I'm sure there's something that we can accomplish and something that we can get to find out where these kids are and what their services that they need and what wasn't given.
Okay.
But that's just my
No,
take.
we'll work that. I know we had conversations with West Ed, and when Ms. McDonald gets on board, we'll take care of that.
All right.
But
Go
I
ahead.
have one more, just one more.
Please.
I understand, but we're putting a lot on the plate of Ms. McDonald right off the bat. So how are we going to prioritize that? Is it the process in which our students are evaluated, or is it going to be the process in which they're getting their services? So maybe you could share with us at your next, coming forward, you could share that plan with us. Which one do you think it's going to be, and how do you think we're going to be able to prioritize that with her, or how are you going to do that?
We will.
All right, very good. Thank you, Ms. Long. Anybody else? Mr. Weldai.
Just very briefly, I sort of want to echo some of the comments my colleagues already made, but also welcoming Mr. Rogers and Ms. McDonald to the district. I know Ms. McDonald has a Herculean task in front of her, so we look forward to meeting her and to having her hit the ground running. I also just wanted to express my appreciation to the superintendent and his team, both for the help desk. I know that that's something that has been, it was one of the key takeaways, I think, from the survey in the spring. So being able to see that come to fruition is phenomenal. But also express our solidarity and making sure we find a resolution to the Chromebook issue, because this is just, it's like 2020 manages to keep piling on something new every couple of weeks. And, a lot of things are in our control. This is one of those things that isn't. We know that Ms. Mertz ordered those Chromebooks as soon as we got that CARES Act money in. We know that we did everything we were supposed to do, and we got shafted. So I think, seeing the principals and the superintendent and his team and Dr. Chase leap into action, it's not a great situation, right? And every question that's coming up in the chat, everything that's on Facebook is just highlighting the fact that it's not a great situation. But we're going to attempt to make the best of it. And I think making sure that we're consistently communicative throughout the whole process will be the most important. So I know, we'll get that message out soon as to how we can move forward, being as equitable as possible, but also making sure that the kids and the teachers, especially in K-4, are at least able to establish some of those meaningful personal connections. So I really appreciate the work you're doing, and I think we're all here to help with whatever you need.
Thank you, Mr. Weldai. I appreciate that, and we will keep everybody apprised when we have any update on that as well.
All right, very good. Any other questions? Just quickly from the chair, Superintendent, regarding our high needs population, how many families have expressed an interest in coming into school? Or do you know?
It's roughly 55% of the families would like to do the in-person learning, 45% no.
Okay. And what mitigation is there for our city as a result of what's happened with the company regarding the Chromebooks?
Mitigation?
Yeah. What's in the agreement that, gives us some mitigation on what appears to be their error?
I don't know specifically in terms of mitigation. I know that Ms. Mertz, who's a skilled auditor and negotiator, probably could answer that one more specifically.
Yeah, can you get me that information on
Sure.
what's going to happen as a result?
Yes.
All right, very good. So no other questions. Let's jump down to subcommittee reports. So we're going to hear from Mr. Iovino first on where we are with enrollment, and then we're going to go to Mr. Weldai on policy and procedures. Mr. Iovino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Currently, we have 6,113 youngsters in the school system, pre-K to 12. In addition to that, there are 140 applications still not completed that were sent out, pardon me, that were not completed as yet. The Parent Information Center is working with those parents as much as they can to make sure that those applications do get completed. In addition, there are approximately 25 to 30 youngsters still on the wait list for the Early Learning Center. So that pushes our numbers up actually to close to, well, over 6,300. And those numbers will climb as the year progresses. Thank you.
So Mr. Iovino, where is that compared to last year at this time?
It's significantly down, approximately 280 youngsters.
I thought that. And what's your guess as to why?
Well, when I asked Mrs. The Parent Information Director, Joan told me that a number of parents have moved out of the city of Malden, but an equal number have left the country.
Got it. Okay. All right, any questions for Mr. Iovino? All right, hearing none. Let's hear from Mr. Weldai.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm actually going to, with your permission, defer to Ms. Spadafora. We just had a policy subcommittee meeting for the face coverings policy at 5 o'clock, and she served as chair for it.
All right, let's do it. Ms. Spadafora.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Policy and Procedure Subcommittee met this evening at 5 p.m. to go over the face covering policy that was sent down to us from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. It was sent down in a draft status for us to review, make any needed changes. So we did make a few changes. One that specifically was needed due to the MOA and the verbiage in that. And if you'd like, I can take the committee through the few changes that were made, just so we're all on the same page. I think everybody has that draft policy. So on paragraph 2, the last sentence, it states that those exempted from this policy are students in grade 1 and below. And we discussed the policy as being a face covering policy. That was then changed and stricken and replaced with the district shall require this for all students in grades K through 12. And it will be recommended and strongly encouraged for pre-K students. So again, this follows the verbiage that's in the MOA that was currently being ratified at the moment. So we just wanted to make sure that that followed through. A few other minor changes were it speaks to needing a physician's letter to be exempt from the policy, but then a couple paragraphs down, it also speaks to this being approved by building principal. So we're just combining those two sentences into one blurb that says, to be exempt, you have to have your a note from the student's physician, and the building principal will then approve. We also wanted to include some verbiage in regards to it following our current dress code policies. So at the end of it, we also added in a statement that students' mask or face covering shall adhere to current dress code policies. and masks shall not be gang affiliated, have wording that relates to sex, alcohol, drugs, tobacco, or improper language, and shall not contain profane, offensive, or disruptive subject matter. And with that, it was voted unanimously, those changes, and also voted unanimously out of subcommittee for the full committee's review.
All right, very well done. So what say you? We can deliberate and take it up next meeting, or we can do it right now.
Make a motion to accept and to vote on it tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Froyo. All right, now it's up before us. Any questions? Mr. Luong?
There was just one more edit, I believe, which was the outside piece. It was one of the 4.
My apologies, Ms. Luong. Yes, we did make an edit to, there's a statement that says additionally, face masks or face coverings will not be required when appropriate social distancing is enforced, with a bullet point underneath that stating during mask breaks. And we changed that verbiage to signify during indoor and or outdoor mask breaks. So we wanted to just clarify that whether a mask break was taken inside the classroom or whether it was maybe outside on the playground, that it was exempt as long as social distancing was occurred. Am I correct in that, Ms. Luong? Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? All right, so we have the motion on the floor. Let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 You're opposed. The ayes have it. That carries unanimously. Was that it under policy and procedures, Mr. Weldai? Okay, very good. So that takes care of motions and resolutions. We're now down to personal privilege. After that, we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of contract negotiation. Any points of personal privilege before we go into executive session? All right, hearing Mr. Iovino.
I just want to give a shout out to all those members who were on the reopening task force, and to Adam and to the superintendent and to Kelly Chase and to Ashley Pierre, our team, and the building principals for their role in helping and really sticking with the negotiations. They were long sessions, but we got the job done.
Very well said. Anybody else? All right, well, let's see who wants to make the motion to go into executive session. So Mr. McCarthy is making the motion.
I make a motion that we go into executive session for the purpose of contract negotiations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Weldai. Let's have our clerk call the roll.
Mr. Drummy,
Yes.
Mr. Froyo,
John is muted.
I think that's a yes.
Mr. Gray,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Iovino,
Yes.
Ms. Luong,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Parapora,
Yes.
Mr. Weldai,
Yes.
Mayor Christensen.
Yes. All right, so we will now go into executive session based on the unanimous vote. So, Mr. Weldai, logistically wise.
So you should be able to leave this meeting, enter the executive session link that you got earlier, and then when we're done, you should be able to rejoin this one.
Okay, very good.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
I don't want to jinx it.
I mean, it is kind of fun. I mean, we're going to have to make sure to incorporate Zoom into when we go back into a meeting in person. This is kind of nice.
Yeah.
We could use Zoom for public comment if we wanted.
It's a good idea. The real question is, if we're meeting in City Hall and we all stand still, do our lights also go off? Will we be stuck there during public comment?
To hire someone to walk. I used to have to do that at Somerville High School. They redid the lights in the gym with one of those grants. And during a basketball game, because they had a track in there, so it was huge, one side of it would go dark and it would, kids are shooting a free throw or something. So I grabbed, like, they're usually like younger kids there, like 10-year-olds that had siblings or whatnot. And I, load them up with pizza and chips and say, hey, just run around here every couple minutes, just because it was, the refs at one point stopped the game and said, if this doesn't stop, I'm going to have to call forfeit because it was a problem. And it took them like 3 months to bypass the switch that I could have like an override on it.
Jeez.
It was crazy. They're like, oh, it's grant funded. We can't do anything about it. I said, I'm going to lose basketball games here because of the stupid thing. So,
Gary has one in his office.
You want to check on John? I think that's all we're missing, right?
Yeah. Oh, wrong John.
Hey, word back at him?
Mm-mm. I'm gonna try something.
You sent him a text.
Oh, he just went back to the executive session. Okay. Len, John has Zoom on his phone, right?
I think so, yeah.
All right. I texted him the link. Let me see if he can just try to do it straight from his phone.
Any word at him?
Nothing.
We're going to move on. So, any motions of the members?
Make a motion that we extend the contract offer to Ms. McDonald as the Assistant Superintendent / Director of Students Personnel Services.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McCarthy. Any questions? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Drummy,
Yes.
Mr. Fryer, Mr. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Iovino,
Yes.
Ms. Luong,
No.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Spatafora,
Yes.
Mr. Weldai,
Yes.
Mayor Christensen.
Yes. So that carries 7-1, I believe.
Mhm.
Now we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Ms. Spatafora, seconded by Mr. McCarthy. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. The school committee is hereby adjourned.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Take care.